Yo, if you want to be at that party, you got to go to kindoffunny.com/KFL3. Get your ticket now. San Francisco, California, June 3rd. This episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Sherry's Berries. Mother's Day is coming up, and Sherry's Berries is offering huge, freshly dipped strawberries starting at $19.99 plus shipping. And right now, you can double the berries for just $10 more. Pick your delivery date, and those berries are guaranteed to arrive fresh and delicious, or your money back. I got these berries for Gia once, and if I'm lying, I'm dying. I ate all of them, and I don't even regret it. They were good. They were damn good. She was pretty bummed, but she was happy I was happy, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. Anyways, the only way to get this amazing berries deal starting at just $19.99 is to visit berries.com. You click on the microphone in the top right corner and use the code KFGAMES. That's BERRIES.com and the code KFGAMES. You click on the mic. This amazing deal won't last long, and Mother's Day is right around the corner, so make your mama proud. Order now. Next topic. Let's talk about Telltale. Patrick Klepek did a great article.
Friend of the show
over on Waypoint.
Yeah.
Talking about why the fuck are Telltale games so broken?
Right.
When will they fix this?
Well,
Greg,
yeah.
lead us off.
What's interesting about Patrick's article over on Waypoint, everybody should go read it, is the fact that I clicked on it when he tweeted. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like what we've all talked about, right? Colin was always banging the drum of just like their engine sucks and they need to fix it. Now, granted, we all said that, but like Colin was really banging the drum. And so it was like, okay, fine. But Patrick's argument's interesting because he's like, take away the save corruption. Take away the crashes. I'm talking about that as a Guardians of the Galaxy fan playing episode 1, these guys look like robots at Disneyland. And I was like, fuck, you're right.
Don't talk shit about Disneyland. He didn't bring Disneyland into
Disney
this.
World. Sorry,
he was
Hall
talking
of
about Chuck E.
Presidents.
Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese. My apologies.
I mean,
My
the way they
apologies.
walk up staircases is just like...
Yeah. And it is that thing of like, it reframes what Telltale is and where they're going in such an interesting way. Of the fact of like, oh right, like for me, Andy and I played episode 1 of Guardians, the week before it came out, and he came in the next day and talked to each other about it. And we before any reviews party, he's like, "What do you think?" I was like, It was all right. Like I was like, okay. By the end, they're telling an interesting enough story. I liked it, but I was like, it doesn't. It's a weird thing of like for me as somebody who's not a Marvel guy, Guardians is Chris Pratt and there's all these different things. So to get in there and not have them look like that or sound like that, and then have them move, I didn't call in them moving inorganically or whatever. And I was like, that is something weird about it. But by the end, I'm like, I want to see where we go with it. But it's a great phrasing of like. When does this end for Telltale? And what is their legacy? Because for somebody who was covering it for IGN at the time, like when Walking Dead hit, when season 1 came out, and it was like, oh, that was a cool episode. Wait, what the fuck is going on? This game is like so different. And we were talking about stories and interactive, and can you tell a story? Like this story is awesome. I care so much about these characters and like people crying at the end and being changed. Like, it's so easy now as we look back at Game of Thrones, all these different huge franchises and what Telltale is. Telltale was fucking nobody before Walking Dead. Like they put out a bunch of games.
Jurassic Park,
which sucked. Back to the Future, which ended horribly. Like started off so strong and then tanked. And then it was Sam and Max before that. It was strong bad. Like I every time we go to Comic-Con and I can't remember, we're over by Hall H, the last hall before Hall H or whatever. I remember taking my first Telltale demo when they were like in a card, like one of the little rooms with a little fucking table right there at the entrance that I saw Sam and Max and I'm like, I don't even know what Sam and Max is. And they're like, we're doing Strong Bad next. I'm like, I don't know what Sam and Max is. Or I mean, I was like, no, we're doing Strong Bad. I don't know what Strong Bad was either. You know what I mean? And it was like, all right, cool. This was a quaint thing to do. Cool to see you. And I'll never forget when they announced they had an event and it was like, we're doing a Walking Dead game and we're doing a Fables game. And I was like, wow, awesome. That seems, and I was a Walking Dead fan. This is before the show. And it was like, okay, cool. Like, that's awesome. I'm glad to see this is going to go on in comic book world. But like, when that hit, it was like, oh shit. And then as it kept continuing, they kept landing franchise in Game of Thrones, and then what they do with Borderlands and the Marvel deal, and now which becomes Guardians. You're
Batman
like,
too.
Batman, yeah, and like, holy shit, these guys are going. They just went nuclear. They're like, they aren't the. It's similar, I guess, in the same way. They are the years of work, overnight success story that Rocket League is. Yeah. Where one day everything's different. And like they're, you go up to their studio now, obviously full disclosure, I hosted the Batman show, which was just, I wasn't paid for or anything. It was just, I want to go host a Batman show. But like you go up there now and like, I remember when they had like 30 people and now they have like 3 floors and all hundreds of people. And it's like, holy shit, like this is such a different thing. However, these problems still exist. The janky animations, the crashes. When I sat down, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm budgeting the time. I'm gonna play Walking Dead season 3, episode 3. Like it's finally here after they put out the first 2, and I jumped in and it's chugging a bit. I'm like, all right, I'm on a PlayStation 4. I'm like, that's weird, and it hard crashes, blue screen. I'm like, fuck, all right, well that happens. Do it. Hard crash, blue screen. Do it. I'm like, okay, well I gotta uninstall this game and reinstall it and be like, guys, what the fuck? Let alone the fact that Batman was the same way. Batman, for me personally, and it's always a different experience for everybody. For me personally, Batman 1 through 4 ran better and performed better than any Telltale game I've played. In terms of like, there was still the janky animation. We're going to a cut scene and then we'll come back and it won't be, or we're going into
a lot of audio just not be there.
Yep. Oh, for me it was we went from the Batcave to City Hall, but it still had the echo of the Batcave, and I was like, all right. And this is me saying these have run better than other Telltale games, telling you how bad it has.
It was like it's sometimes like I'd be in the middle of combat, which is like actually really satisfying in that game, and Batman would kick someone and they wouldn't be a noise.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
And then we got to episode 5, and episode 5 was, well, I guess before that there was the one where the guys were running around Arkham and they had no faces. It was just eyeballs. It was the Assassin's Creed face. But episode 5 was the same thing where, oh man, I'm into the climactic battle, blue screen, hard lock, dead. Fuck, restart, get past that point, then dead. And then one more, I think it died.
What were you playing Batman on?
PlayStation 4.
So I played the whole thing on PC, and it felt like I didn't. Like, I think that is the best performing Telltale game I've ever had. But there definitely were, every single episode had an issue. Like some kind of issue that like I either laughed at it or it pulled me out of it. Like things didn't load. The audio thing was really annoying. And I didn't have any crashes at all, and my save files were totally fine. But it's like even that, the fact that I'm being like, but at least it didn't crash is that's a standard that they have.
And that's the weird thing right now as a trade-off with Telltale is the fact that I think for me personally, I still think of them as this, oh man, this small studio is still doing big things. But it is the point of like, you're fucking working with DC and Marvel and Image and like HBO. Like, do you not have the money and the resources to build something? And it used to be, I remember, oh, well, I'm playing on PS3 and this game is optimized probably for a PC, so no wonder it's crashing. But then you get to PlayStation 4 and you're like, well, no, this is still happening. And Patrick's article talks about,
playing on PC,
Hey, Patrick played on PC, and his article talks about the fact of like, rumors I've heard too of just like, well, yeah, they don't have a physics engine. You know what I mean? To make a ball roll, it's fucked up. And that was I remember at E3 when they showed us Batman.
The world moves around the character rather than the character moving through the world is one of the things. I don't know if that happens with Batman.
Batman, they made a big deal of like, we have a physics engine for the cape. Like there's actually something happening, which sounds goofy, but I mean like it was, I remember doing the panel where they announced it. We did it at South by. And I was like, oh, cool. You're listening and you're responding, but it's like, how much are they? Because like here we are, and for me, I wonder, is it just the fact that Patrick put it like I've always described it on these shows of like it's a network, right? And like where Colin will always be like, Telltale's putting out too many games. They should stop putting out so many games. Like, well, no, not everybody plays every Telltale game. It's like a channel you tune in, you watch the show you want. But are they putting out so much that there's just no time for somebody to go there and be like, let's blow everything up and rebuild?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think even more important than that is like there needs to be consistency in release schedule. Like with Walking Dead, it's like it's ridiculous that for season 3, like they released 1 and 2 at the same time, and
December,
then it was such a huge gap until 3,
which was the end of, was it the beginning of April? Wait, no, because it was December. We got 1 and 2, then no word, then
nothing.
End of March we got episode 3, and now end of April today, right? No, today's Wednesday. So yesterday we got episode 4. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing with that is they don't even have an idea. Like when I was reviewing Batman, and it would be like, hey, we think we're gonna get a code maybe Wednesday, and it seemed to be like Friday, 6 p.m. I have to play the fucking game. I have to capture everything on a Saturday. I have to write my review. I have to have it published by Monday. And it was like every single time was like, can we get this before Wednesday so I can get this all done so I don't have to work the weekend? They were like, I don't know. And it would just like appear in my inbox. And I think it's that they work on those
up until the moment.
Exactly. Like absolutely. And I think like part of the thing with like episode 4 kind of historically being shitty is that they like probably plan out the first 3 episodes really solidly and plan out the last one. And then in the middle, they're like, oh, I have no idea what we do, and make a bunch of changes that are still being made 2 days before the game comes out.
Yeah.
It's like, they have no idea what their schedule is.
Yeah, and it's like on one hand, as a consumer, it's like, all right, cool, they're trying to get it to us as soon as possible, and they're working on it as much as possible.
Delay it.
Yeah, it's
fine.
like, but let's make it good. And I think that it really, at this point, does come down to what you're saying, where they have to have money. And at what point is it unacceptable? Have we reached that point? Or is that point never going to be hit because it's fine and people will keep buying it, and it's better for them to focus on getting more IP to make more games that run this way?
That's kind of what I think, is that the point that it stops being fine is the point that people stop buying those games. And the point that people start complaining about them more, which is like obviously people who work in the industry do, but I think people who are Telltale fans do not care. Like a crash sucks. losing save progress sucks, but for the most part, they just will play all of them and not give a shit about it. So it's like there's no onus for them to change.
And I think that they must make so much money on all of the different SKUs across all of the different platforms, including mobile.
And that's one of the reasons they're optimized so poorly, you assume, right? It's because you have
true.
this team that's stretched thin trying to get it on every platform and make it run a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that is the trade-off you talk about of like, well, it's a Telltale game. You know what you're going to get. And like, I'm part of the problem. I reviewed them back then and I was like, oh, it runs better, it runs worse, whatever. But it wasn't like really dinging them because the story is so good and the choice is so good and I like where this is going. And that still can be said, obviously, right? Like,
that's why giving review scores is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like you have to weigh up the thing that you care about the most. And for a Telltale game, despite complaining about the bugs, I still do care more about getting a good story than I do about those bugs. Like, I can laugh them off. It's fine. Like, I'm willing to accept it. I don't know why it happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing of like, where do they go and will they ever change it and how? I think it's like anything else, right? Like, it's a vote with your wallet kind of thing, but like, I'm part of the problem, right? Like, I know that episode 4 is going to have shitty things, but I'm going to play episode 4. And like, well, granted, I already bought the season pass, but I'm in for it. You know what I mean? Like,
You've already bought the season pass. You're absolutely
exactly.
in for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You already did it.
I already fucked it up and
It's
did
done.
it. But again, it is because I have that bar set for what that's going to be.
Yeah.
What's interesting too, I wanted to pull it up, of course, just so I make sure that like earlier this year they lost a bunch of talent too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I knew.
A bunch of people went to Ubisoft, right?
Yep, exactly. Dennis Lenart, Nick Herman, Pierre Shortet. I'm sorry, Pierre, I never pronounced your last name before on any of the shows. All people, friend of our shows, have been through. I mean, fucking Nick Herman came by that one time for that Tales of the Borderlands thing where we all got drunk, and then Adam, who I don't know, but like you were talking about, executive producer, director of writing, creative director, and senior cinematic artist, creative director. Like, these are the guys who, like, for Dennis, Nick, and Pierre, these were the people who were like super behind The Walking Dead like forever that I talked to, and I think did a lot on Tales. I mean, they all bop around, so it's interesting. But it is an interesting thing of like what that'll do going forward in terms of brain trust. I'm sure you're hiring the right people. They're all coming up. It's not like someone leaving a company ruins it. But it'll be interesting to see what that does on the writing front and what it does for the game front. And how it's gonna go.
Definitely. The consistency, not even just in release schedule, but in terms of quality and like episode by episode pacing is like a difficult thing too, because it's a blessing and a curse being episodic. I think episodic releases are a good thing for things like this because it keeps these games that might not necessarily have the huge boom of a AAA game in the media, kind of
100%.
talking sphere for a couple months at a time.
It was like the opposite with Hitman though. Like, that game was really good, but I think it would have done way better if they'd released it at once.
See, the thing about it, if I can jump in, sorry, Tim, is that I think it works with a Telltale game because I'm there to talk to you about the story. What choice did you make? What this? Hitman is pretty much is just gameplay, right? And then, how did you take this guy out? Well, I'm gonna eventually take him out that way. Hitman fans play those games over and over and over again. Yeah. Whereas like Telltale, it was always when Mitch and I would get there in the morning after getting the new episode, we'd go into a room and shut the doors, like, what did you do and how are you handling this? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I think you're talking about consistency. That's the thing. Telltale's consistent in what their games are going to run like and look like and do it. You know what I mean? That's why when they're like, oh, we got capes physical, I'm like, oh, fuck, all right, guys, we're trying. Good job.
I just think that it's a different experience, and we've talked about this in a ton of different shows, but binge watching something, binge reading something, binge playing something is very different than the week to week or month to month of getting it.
Right.
And especially when these games are for the story. So they're comparable then to reading or watching something. And I think Walking Dead is a perfect example because you can read the comic or watch the show. And it's like that show, when there's a lull episode, you're at least like, all right, cool. Well, next week, that means there's going to be something cool. But when these games, you don't know when the next one is, and it's like, oh, well, episode 3 is kind of a bummer. Then it's just like you don't know when you're going to get the next one.
And that's another thing back to like reviewing sucks and putting scores on things sucks. Like, reviewing episode by episode Walking Dead, like I remember season 1, episode 4, that was the first one I gave like a 7.5 to, where I was just like, it's fine. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of just middling. There's a huge thing at the end. And that's what I think IGN just said about episode 4 of season 3, where it's like, it's fine, but the ending's awesome. And it's like, that's like, it's shitty. But then when I went back and like would do streams or whatever and play through all the Walking Dead episodes together, episode 4 didn't feel like such a downturn anymore because I knew I knew that I was getting the next thing right away, and actually it helped with the narrative in terms of like, oh, this is what's going on, and we need to have that slow moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like season 2 of Walking Dead, the show, when it's like binge watching, it's really not that bad.
Yeah,
but sitting through week to week, I couldn't even imagine doing that. That would have been so slow.
You don't know what it was like.
I don't.
The pain. Sophia, you fucked. We're moving on. That's what you leave that note on the wall.
You're done.
Are you okay?
No, a lot of.
I remember I was playing Game of Thrones, the Telltale series.
That was bad, right?
I got through 2 of them, and then like I was like, I don't even want to keep going really, because it's like I feel Like the Guardians is an interesting thing because
Have you played it?
No.
Okay.
But they're borrowing from reading Patrick's thing and just like hearing you guys talk about it, borrowing the aesthetic of the movies and the Guardians verse.
It feels like
created,
Guardians,
where it's like it's the music and it's this like it's more funny than anything else. Whereas like the comics aren't necessarily that.
Yeah.
Or at least the original source material of it. So that kind of creates a weird shift where it's like, well, they don't look how I want them to look.
Yep.
They don't really sound like I want them to
It's
sound.
like every time that someone voice acts as the Joker and it's not Mark Hamill, I'm like, what is this?
But the interesting thing about it is the fact of I think they succeeded so much with Tales from the Borderlands. Did you play Tales from the Borderlands?
No, but Marty keeps telling me I should. Apparently, it's just super funny, right?
It's so funny. It's
I didn't
so
like
good.
Borderlands.
It doesn't matter. That was my thing. Is like when they announced it, I was like, what a dumb thing. I like Borderlands as the RPG, loot grind or whatever. I don't need to go through and then you play it and like it doesn't even need to be Borderlands. It's just giving you the framing
Still
of the
handsome
universe,
Jack,
or whatever.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But did you not like him?
No, I do like.
Oh,
him.
he's great. Yeah, he's a really good performance in it. And then Batman. But Batman was great, remember? Because episode 1 ends and you're like, oh shit, we're going in an entirely different direction. This isn't the Batman universe Whereas Guardians, granted, there's a big moment early on where you're like, well, I guess we are not in the cinematic universe or the comic books. They are doing their own thing, but it doesn't feel like their own thing. Like Batman, like he has a different car and he has a different suit and this is that. And like there's all these clear things. But when you're totally aping and not against it for, James Gunn style, that's when it's like, it's harder for me to leave that behind because this feels so familiar.
Yeah, and then the big issue I had though is on the complete other end of the spectrum with Game of Thrones was it was canon.
Yeah.
It is in the TV show universe, and that means that it was limited.
Yeah.
Like they could only do so much, and any time that a character that, to be honest, you'd care about would show up, you knew it was going to be limited, and you knew that, that where the stakes were at, and it's just like, all right, well, I don't really care to do this because it seems like a side story. Like it's so inconsequential.
Didn't you want to know what Marjorie was doing on this Tuesday?
And that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And it's like the main plot going on. I'm like, all right, this is interesting. And it was very much Game of Thrones. Like they nailed everything about it. But I'm like, there's already enough characters that I care about that I'm like, I don't really buy this.
This was the whole problem with Walking Dead season 1 Glenn and Walking Dead season 3 right now. Minor spoilers, Jesus. Of just like they show up and I'm like, really didn't need you here. You know what I mean? Like Glenn, when he leaves, he's like, wow, so I'm going off to go. I'll go see what I'm like. I know where you're going. Just go away. And Jesus mentions Hilltop. You're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Or Kingdom maybe. But it's like, all right, whatever. Like, all right, just go do your thing. Like, it's weird that you're here. This is Clem's story. And that's the thing about this one where they've introduced Javier or whatever. And it's like, okay, like this is interesting. But it is that thing of, there's a pro and con to it of like, well, I don't have a history with him, so I don't really care about him. But then choices pop up and I'm like, I don't know, fuck that. Guy seems like an asshole. Fuck him. Whereas like with Clem, I was always super protective, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to appeal that I'm a little girl, get around this.
Yeah, I'm used to that. Well, thank you for watching that. You can click right there to subscribe to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. You can click right there to subscribe to youtube.com/kindoffunny. You can support us on Patreon, get a lot of things early, and you can click right here for some fucking magic.